All right, Rob Brown here with you on a Friday morning sidelines broadcast. Be with you 8 to 10 a.m. Central, 9 to 11 a.m. east of the Chattahoochee. Got a great show in store for you today. Going to be joined momentarily by Jimmy Hodge, and we've got Loran Smith on the line with us over in Athens, Georgia. Patriarch of Georgia and Southern SEC football. Looking forward to our conversation with him. Segment number 2, we'll be joined by Jason Caldwell inside the Auburn Tigers to talk about things down on the plains. Segment number 3, Tommy Kane will check in with us. Longtime worked for the ACC network and really knows what's going on over there. In that conference, they've got to get some answers quickly because, I don't know. Nobody really knows what's going to happen with conference expansion. But for right now, we're going to talk about football, and Franz Beard of GatorBaitMedia.com joins us in the 4th segment of the show. So, again, we're with you every Monday through Saturday, 8 to 10 a.m. Central, 9 to 11 a.m. east of the Chattahoochee, where Loran is. And, Loran, want to say thank you so much. I know you just had a hernia surgery and joining us on this show. You are tougher than a nickel steak, but I was reading your book, Loran, What Do You Got, last night, and there's you're talking about you were over there with some friends that love it at the Lovett School on the Chattahoochee in Atlanta, and you talked about those annoying Canada geese. And as a big-time duck hunter and goose hunter and anything that swims, flies, crawls, or runs, I loved your reference to the geese along the Chattahoochee here at Lovett are as annoying as the pigeons at St. Peter's Basilica in Venice. And I was like, yeah, I mean, you're exactly right. And I've been there. Audrey's been there. Those pigeons mob you, but damn, you're a great writer, and we're just glad to have you. How you doing?
Well, I'm struggling these days, Rob. After hernia surgery, it's left me a little bit weak, and then I've got something funny wrong with my left calf muscle, so I'm on the disabled list. I'm ready to get off.
Well, we're gonna get you back going, man. Let me ask you this: have you been? I had that hernia surgery. I remember it, and I think within 15 days I was able to run. But man, it's that outpatient surgery, and they were trying to shove me out the door, and I'm like, oh, wait a minute, 2:30 in the afternoon. It was a struggle to make it across the parking lot, but I remember my wife drove me around, in the car, and I was like, I didn't even remember it, and I asked the doctor about the drugs in there, and he said, well, they're pretty strong. They give you retrograde amnesia. I said, carry on. He said, well, we want you to forget how much pain you were in. I was like, okay.
well, I'm sure I'll be okay by Thanksgiving.
No, you will. Listen, we got to get you better. You're one of the bright spots in college football, and I know you've been working on the book about Kirby Smart in Georgia and the national championship team. And I thought it was cool a few weeks ago when you talked about the visit you had for the day with Stetson Bennett IV, one of my favorite players in college football down in Blackshear, his hometown. And it's just, it's a neat story. And the good thing for you in Georgia is that Kirby Smart kind of lives by that motto that I just absolutely embrace. The only easy day was yesterday. And that's the thing about it. But kind of give us an update on the book and your thoughts on college football. Jimmy and I and the rest of the free world are ready to hear.
Well, I really have enjoyed the project. It's been a little demanding because Kirby is not uncooperative in any way, but he's too busy to write a book.
Well,
I think that would be true of any college head coach today who is really engaged and has put himself in a position to coach a team that can compete for the national championship. So I've just been I learn a lot, and that never ends. I know Coach Dooley, when he turned 88, he quoted Michelangelo, who said on his 88th birthday, "I'm still learning."
Love it.
So I think football coaches will tell you that they still learn. One of the things in the book, just a little vignette, just a little note with our offensive coordinator, Todd Monken, and said, we learn from players. Coaches learn from players, particularly in the NFL. So it's a learning experience, but it'll all still come down to execution. Blocks and tackles the best. I think nobody will ever get away from that. But I learned a lot about a lot of kids in their background, their hometown. I learned that our tight end from California, he practiced catching sideline routes while he watched television.
Wow.
And he got pretty good at that in his living room, so he took it to the field.
Yeah.
So, and then Stetson Bennett went down to see him. The day I saw him, I met him and his brother at a little crossroads place. I mean, literally crossroads. And they were transferring sacks of cement from one pickup truck to the other. Once they got them transferred, Stetson took over the loaded truck and drove me to his family swamp home. And he showed me where he learned to play sports in the high school. And just those kinds of experiences are just nice. You just learn a lot about people. And that's the greatest thing about college athletics. You're dealing with young kids who sometimes make it big. And Stetson Bennett's the greatest story. I can't imagine a greater story at Georgia than Stetson Bennett, a guy who's not the prototype type player.
Yeah.
He's eager for competition. He grew up competing year-round, football in the fall. I mean, this is before even high school.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the way it is for so many kids.
Yeah.
Basketball in the winter and baseball in the spring, baseball track. He's just a kid that always had a ball in his hand and dreamed of playing for the University of Georgia. And so he grew up and his dream came true. So that's a wonderful story to write.
Well, it is. And the neat thing about this book that you're writing is just that every jersey number is just a window into his world, that player's world. And it seems like we're just attracted to, I remember one time I picked up Coach Dye when he was in Memphis, October of '94, speaking to the Touchdown Club. About 5:30 in the morning, I picked him up, take him from the hotel to the airport. And we were talking about my favorite players at Auburn. And he said, you got a thing about them underdogs, I can tell. And I said, because Lionel James, was one of my favorite players ever out of Albany, Georgia, Daughtery High School. And then, how many times when Coach Dye got to Auburn, he said, well, we ain't winning football games because we got guys like him. He pointed to Lionel. And then, 3 years later, they're hosting up an SEC championship trophy. But you love the guys that are told, go do something else. And they embrace it and they find excuses to win. And doesn't mean that Stetson Bennett is guaranteed anything except one thing, he's going to show up and fight, and he inspires. You were there at Georgia when Fran Tarkenton was there. Are there any similarities in those two?
Well, I think the competitive instincts, finding a way to win, is the same. However, they were different style quarterbacks, and Tarkenton was not as much of a small guy lining up at quarterback as Stetson, but Tarkenton had to prove people wrong. Tarkenton got a dislocated shoulder, and you're gonna shake your head wondering how we got away or wondering how these things could take place.
Yeah.
They played bad on Friday night. I don't know if they won or not, but they played bad. The team played bad, in the opinion of the head coach, who made a scrimmage on Saturday morning. And he got a dislocated shoulder, and it sort of ruined his arm. So he didn't have a strong arm.
Yeah.
But in the end, you look back, he set the record for pass attempts. I mean, I'm talking about the NFL record that stood for years. Pass attempts, pass completions, touchdowns, yardage. So he didn't have an arm like even a Roger Staubach. He didn't have an arm like the guys we see today, John Elway came along and had the great arm and all of that, but he found a way to win.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you got to love that, and that's what I mean. I grew up. I had a Fran Target, the number 10 Minnesota Vikings jersey I used to wear as a kid. My parents brought back from a game up there, and it came all the way down and covered my feet. The purple people eaters. I mean, that was fun. That was cool. Jimmy, jump in here, man.
Yeah, Lauren. I know you've been thinking about doing the book and planning it and so forth, but I'm sure a lot of fans would like to know when does the time frame of the book start? With spring practice last year and then through the championship game, or does it start with a preseason camp and then go through the season? And then when is the target date for your book to be ready for the bookstores where fans can buy it? And how many pages is the book?
Well, you're asking me some questions I'm not sure I can answer. Like pages of the book, I really don't know. 60,000 words, I think, is what we agreed on, and that's not hard and fast. But the thing that will be key to the book will be photography, and got a great lady here, Cassie Wright, who travels with me. She went down to Savannah to interview Nolan Smith on the day he gave out backpacks to several hundred kids. He got a charity that he's supporting already, even before he gets into the NFL. Of course, he's there now. He's at camp now here, but he'll be in the NFL in a year or less time. So that's part of it. But we basically did a little bit of background. We did Indianapolis at the outset of the book, Kirby's emotions, his thoughts. He did a narrative. And then we went from that into the making of the man, which is Kirby. So I spent time with his parents, and his dad, was his coach.
Yeah.
So we got great material from his dad. And we tried to just establish, what made Kirby great. He wasn't a sought-after high school player, but he was really a damn good college defensive back.
Yeah.
But a guy had to decommit at Georgia, where he really wanted to be, and he went to Tennessee, so that opened the door for Kirby to have a scholarship. And then he played 1 year with Ray Goff, who was let go after his freshman season.
Yeah.
And Kirby was the kind of kid with such great leadership qualities. He wanted to make it easy. He got with his teammates, wanted to make it easy on the new coaching staff, but the head coach turned out to be Jim Donald. So we just got into his background. Some of the kinds of things that I don't think anybody's ever gotten into before, because Kirby, he really ain't excited about being interviewed. I mean, he's not ego driven.
Yeah.
So it was things like that. And then we did Kirby's take on the games, which is done first person in his voice.
Yeah.
And he's given us some insights that never been published before. So we think it'll be an appealing book. And it's coming out next year, because there's just no way we could sit down and do this kind of book and have it out this fall. Because the book publishing business now is, if you do a hardback book, you have a hard time with paper. And if most of these big color coffee table style books are done in Asia a lot of times, but if you get it printed over there, China, Korea, wherever, it may get to the harbor in Los Angeles or San Francisco. It might sit there for 3 days, for 3 months.
Yeah.
It's just too iffy. So we decided to take time and make it a retrospective. And we've got a tremendously good response in our discussion with people. So I think I'm right on this now, but I think North Carolina rolled the dice and did a book. And then after they won the first game, I'm talking about North Carolina basketball.
Yeah.
Last year, it was great. And then
Loran,
they lost.
Can I interrupt you real quick? Hold on. We're going to take a quick break. I want you to tell that story. This is really cool because I've never heard this. And I want to come back after the break and let you continue. Loran Smith with us, folks. Rob Brown live at Red River Ford Toyota in Wynn, Arkansas, along with Jimmy Hodge. We'll be right back after this break with more on Georgia.
Red River Ford and Toyota, located in Wynn, Arkansas. If you're in the market for a new or used car, truck, or SUV, call, go online, or drop by and see them. Located 45 minutes from Memphis, go off the 4-city exit on I-40 and go north about 15 minutes on Highway 1. Easy to work with and still believe in customer service. If you live out of town, they will deliver your vehicle to you. RedRiverFordToyota.com. Just see what they can do.
Strengthen your seed zone this spring with quality tillage equipment from House Industries. Located in Cherry Valley, Arkansas, House Industries specializes in manufacturing superior equipment that will minimize your downtime and keep you working in the field. To ensure the highest quality control, all design, fabrication, and testing takes place in a 99,000 square foot manufacturing facility located right here in the heart of the Delta. Locate your nearest House equipment dealer online at houseindustriesinc.com.
House Industries, breaking ground.
Sidelines with Rob Brown. Talk sporty to me.
All right, we are back with Loran Smith, and Loran, you were making a point about North Carolina had published a book about their basketball team, and let's keep going. This is really interesting.
Well, the thing I understand is, I say I don't know this from having any first-hand connection or anything, but I think in essence what they did is that they really wanted to do it on the championship season, but they didn't win the championship, unfortunately for them. And so they wind up having to publish what in essence is a runner-up book. So that's why we didn't want to get into doing something that we had to force. I mean, we had to start writing and working on this book last fall to have gotten it out for this fall. This kind of book, yeah. It's just too much of a challenge. So we've made it. This is my description. We've made it sort of a retrospective because Kirby has never sat down and done anything like this before. So you're going to get Kirby's take on things that's going to be different, but it's going to highlight the great players. I've got vignettes of over 40 players in the book. The 15 that went on to the NFL, those who came back. So we got a lot of interesting stories. We got a profile on every coach on the staff. So it'll be new and it'll be, I think, exciting information for most people. And then we had the good fortune of having celebrated, and now we're looking back, and we're not looking back very far, just a year.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a great book. I'm ready, and I love reading your book. You know, Loran, what do you got? Excerpts, and I told someone it's like the book that David Housel wrote, From the Back Booth at Chappie's. Your book, these stories, they're episodes for Andy Griffith shows. They're cool, and you and we lost Buddy Davidson recently, but Claude Felton's still there at Georgia. You know, you're still there. David Housel's still there. You can't put a value. You know, there's a story about the man that knew the cost of everything and the value of nothing. That's a lot of people today. And if they get a chance, and Jimmy, you know what it's like game day, no matter where the dogs are. When you're in Athens at 3.5-hour pregame show, Loran, it is so cool because history, tradition, and heroes are what college football is all about. That's what your book's about. Let's talk right now. You've seen some things happen. My dad at 94 is listening right now. He's seen things happen. But let's go back at a time in the 1950s when college football was put on TV. There were people lining up and saying, well, that's the end of it. People will just stay home and watch it on TV. They won't go to the games. 1984. the lawsuit, Georgia and Oklahoma against the NCAA about getting more games on college football. Well, now that all the games are on TV, nobody's going to show up. You know, if Meet the Press would have been around at the time the light bulb was invented, they would have lamented the death of the candle. And, you know, but we've been here before. Loran, you are great at extrapolating all this information and having a vision, a clear vision of where we're going. It's just the way you say it. But let's get everybody fired up, man, to run through that tunnel.
Well, it'll be fun to see football season get underway again. And I tell you, there's just so many stories out there. You can't imagine. I mean, I couldn't have in the 50s before television. You just speak that we would wind up having a national championship team with some of the key players coming from the state of California, for example.
Yeah.
But now that happens every week.
Yeah.
I mean, every season now. I mean, of course, I do know that people who don't go public with their views, a lot of coaches, some of whom coach at our alma maters, privately are worried because, you know, when money is involved, greed gets involved. When greed gets involved, there's no rules, there's no morals. That can be the case, and often is. So we got a challenge with college football, but boy, it's still an exciting game. And I think a good barometer of where we are and what our values are in terms of fan appeal is going to still be dictated by tailgating. As long as tailgating is supreme on a college campus, and it is today.
Yeah.
And that's universal. I mean, even Southern California, there's any reason to think they might not be wrapped up in tailgating. I just happen to know about a lot of schools. I've seen it in Washington, by the lake there in Seattle, and all over the southwest, and all up on the eastern seaboard, all the way from lobster rolls at Boston College to, you know, Sonora hot dogs at Arizona. If we ever lose tailgating, I think then you can really be an accurate doomsayer.
Yeah. Well, I don't see that happening. People love to eat, love to drink, and most of all, it's about the relationships. Jimmy?
Yeah, Loran, we're just 2 weeks away from the opening game, and I'm just, you know, curious what your MO is as the season approaches, because I know you want to get up to date on, you know, really Oregon, I guess, because what an interesting dynamic that is. Dan Lanning's first game as Oregon head coach is against the Dogs. And then, you know, also, I'm curious, you mentioned that, you know, photography is the main thing that's, I guess, delaying the completion of the book. So is your work pretty much completed on the book, or are you just still doing some fine tuning? And the fans would, I think, just like to know how you're approaching this season since it's almost here.
Well, yeah, I'm essentially finished. There's, I guess I'd say a half a dozen vignettes that I got to do, and I got two major essays that I want to finish. But we're where the publisher can take off and get things done. And I really am enjoying it, as I say. And it's not finished, but it's close enough to where the publisher won't be held back in any way. Photography is just it's ideal and it's in place. So the hard work now goes to the layout artist. And when we published, Louis Grizzard and I wrote a book, Glory, Glory, in 1980,
Yeah.
Georgia's national championship season. The photography had a lot to do with the appeal of that book. So we're fine, but every day is a challenge for somebody in the publishing business. So I've got mine pretty much in good shape, but there's a lot of work for a lot of talented people from the University of Georgia Press who will help make this thing a very, very attractive project. We anticipate that we'll have a pretty book, and that's what you want.
Yeah, I mean, you say coffee table book. The big ones are done over in China, and you're right. They go to Long Beach, California, sit on those big containers on those ships for 3 months, 4 months, and now some of these companies have gotten aggressive, and they've been flying helicopters out there and offloading their stuff. They say we ain't going to wait around. We're not going to tread water forever. So if your book were ever to be in a situation like that, we'd have to marshal every resource available in the military. Somebody,
Well,
get it out
good
there.
news. Good news. We're not going to have that problem.
Yeah.
The book will be published in Canada,
There you go.
so we can come overland. We
Yeah.
won't have a problem.
Look, it's great reading this book. I believe will reaffirm people's faith in the future of college football. Because, Loran, is it fair to say, and I say this a lot, but I think we brag about how old our stadiums are in college. In the NFL, they brag about how new they are. And Frank Duffy said it best yesterday. We talked about the NFL, and he said, I love my New Orleans Saints, but I bleed purple and gold for my LSU Tigers on Saturday. And that's the way it is.
Yeah.
You pick the campus. Now, as an Auburn man, my choices always were going, if I couldn't get into Auburn, I always wanted to go to Auburn, but if it didn't work out, I'd go to Georgia or Clemson. And because not that they're not as good as Auburn, it's just I've always had an attraction to those schools because they're so similar. I mean, in so many ways. And you think about Georgia's fan base, hardcore, 95,000 every game, year after year. I mean, yeah, it was a long time. So was Auburn throughout between recognized national championships. But there's, Georgia is what, the 9th or 10th winningest program in the history of college football. Don't ever not take time to appreciate the greatness of your program. You want to win the national title every year, but man, being a Georgia fan is like being, the King Kong. I mean, it's fun.
Well, I would say this: everybody loves his school, and I think that's the beauty of college athletics. We just need to keep doing that, and as we appreciate our alma mater, respect you for your love of Auburn, respect the next guy for his love of his alma mater. I've watched this through the years. I've seen how competitive it is.
Yeah.
On game day. But when you go to the conference meetings, everybody, we're all friends.
That's right.
And everybody, the football coaches meet and talk about things that would help improve football. The sports information directors would do the same. And then, in the evening, say, Rob, you would love the experience that I had. I was the greenest person at the conference meeting years. I was the youngest, and the greatest fun was to stand in the room and watch the poker games.
Oh, yeah.
Populated by Bear Bryant.
God.
Let's see, Bob Woodruff at Tennessee,
Yep.
Adolph Rupp at Kentucky. They played poker and they talked to each other like they were yard dogs, but it never broke up the poker game. But everybody gets along at the conference meeting, but you go fuss and gripe about any kind of thing that you think somebody's done that gives them an advantage. That's just part of the competition.
Yeah. Well, and that's, look, we about run out of time on this segment, but I got to tell you, my wife is as excited as I am when you're coming on the show, and we really mean that because and I know you want to get recuperated, and every day you're going to get better from this hernia surgery. But football season, it's like Jimmy says, when you're on campus, you're 21 again, and there's just a magic that's out there. And this Georgia-Oregon game coming up, and we want to get you back on. I'd love to do it again next week. But what you just said is right. And the more I do this show, and I've been doing this kind of stuff for a long time, but when you're around you or Housel, or when Buddy Davidson was alive, or Claude Felton, and you are there, yeah, you want to beat each other. And the reason, people say, well, I hate this school. No, I don't hate anybody. It's because you respect them. And that's what this is all about. You respect people. What would a rivalry be? It wouldn't be a rivalry if you're a fan of a school and you want your rival to lose every game, well, I can tell you one thing, it ain't going to be on TV. Nobody wants to watch you beat up on a cripple, man.
Well, I think I know, I've heard the classic coaches and the great old timers, people like Bud Wilkinson, all you respect your opponent. When you don't respect your opponent, that's when you're in trouble.
There you go. That's right. I mean, it's about as accurate as it gets, and that's more. And you knew Bud Wilkinson. I mean, it's one of the smartest coaches that's ever been out there. Loran, again, you think the book, before we go, about time-wise, and I know Jimmy asked you earlier, just to remind people, it'd be a great Christmas present if it's going to be out by then. You think it'll be ready?
Oh no, it'll be next spring.
Okay, it'll be next spring. Okay.
Yeah, once we finish the manuscript, and I did before I went on my trip to Maine. Essentially finished. We got some mop-up.
Yeah.
It takes a while then to lay out and design the book. So,
right.
And then you got to get it published and you got to get it delivered. So it'll be in the spring.
All right, Loran Smith, thank you so much for your time, and looking forward to having you back on more regularly. But this is solid gold. I mean, it just every time you're on, you learn something new. But keep doing what you're doing. We love having you on.
All right, good to talk to you, Coach, and have a good day.
All right, you do too. Loran Smith, a DGD, damn good dog. Let's switch gears, head over to the plains of Auburn, the loveliest village. Jason Caldwell inside the Auburn Tigers. 23 years. I think he puts in more miles on the ground going to see high school recruits, covering Auburn, all sports, his Monday morning columns. He's a true grit journalist, and he won Alabama Sports Writer of the Year about a month ago. Jason Caldwell joins us. And Jason, hey, we're getting closer, 360 hours away from kickoff of Auburn's first game, if anybody's keeping track, and I know we all are. What's been the takeaway so far from what you've seen, the scrimmage, and where you see this team going from here?
Yeah, no, it's so far it's been, I think probably just TJ Finley's improvement. Now we haven't seen him in a game, but just from what I've seen, I think and it stands to reason. He's in his third year at Auburn. He's in his second year in this system, and that's a big deal for a quarterback. And I think people wondered, what haven't Zach Calzada, what hadn't he done yet? I think it's just more what TJ Finley's done through the first scrimmage, and they'll have a second one this afternoon today to for them hopefully clear up some things at quarterback and other positions. But that's probably the biggest takeaway right now. That, and then having Camden Brown and Damari Austin make plays in a scrimmage. I think we talked about it. Playmaking is of the utmost importance, and so I think for them, that was a big first step. Can they back it up in scrimmage number 2?
Yeah, Jason, we're going to a break here in a few seconds, but I saw, Damari Austin. He came out of Metro Atlanta, where there are so many players, but that running back room at Auburn is pretty deep. I mean, Tank Bigsby, Jarquez Hunter, Sean Jackson, a kid out of Hewitt Trustful, who came in last year as a walk-on. I think he's on scholarship now. That's what you got to have, is some depth there. And I listened to your podcast, you and Mark Murphy, Nathan King. It was really good. Y'all broke it down from the scrimmage. But again, like you say, the guy nobody gave it, any chance to. TJ Finley looks to be the clear leader in the quarterback room. So when we come back, we're going to talk more about offense, defense for the Tigers. We've got Jason Caldwell with us, Rob Brown, Jimmy Hodgeby with you right after this break.
Red River Ford and Toyota, located in Wynne, Arkansas. If you're in the market for a new or used car, truck, or SUV, call, go online, or drop by and see them. Located 45 minutes from Memphis, go off the 4-city exit on I-40 and go north about 15 minutes on Highway 1. Easy to work with and still believe in customer service. If you live out of town, they will deliver your vehicle to you. RedRiverFordToyota.com. Just see what they can do.
Strengthen your seed zone this spring with quality tillage equipment from House Industries. Located in Cherry Valley, Arkansas, House Industries specializes in manufacturing superior equipment that will minimize your downtime and keep you working in the field. To ensure the highest quality control, all design, fabrication, and testing takes place in a 99,000 square foot manufacturing facility located right here in the heart of the Delta. Locate your nearest House equipment dealer online at houseindustriesinc.com.
House Industries, breaking ground.
Sidelines with Rob Brown. Talk sporty to me.
Right, Jason, again, TJ Finley, Robbie Ashford, TJ Calzada, Holden Gehringer. Those are, and Holden's the true freshman out of Savannah St. Benedict. But are you surprised, or did you kind of expect it? The longer TJ Finley's been in the system, going through spring practice and getting into more of a normal practice routine, he's progressed to where he is now, because he seems like he is really grasping this offense.
Yeah, I think that's the key to really just about anything. It's comfort grasping the offense, and another part of it is that when you take over an offense, at the end of the year last year, that was an offense that they had kind of designed and tweaked for Bo Nix when it happened, and then it's hard to change everything in just a couple of weeks and do those things. And so now you got kind of the base offense that you're running, and once you find out who the quarterback is, then you start to tweak some of those things to his specific traits and the things he does the best, some of the plays he does the best. And so I think it's a testament to the work he's put in. And we saw Zach Calzada's work this summer, but what we didn't see is that everybody else is working too. And we've had players talk about that, said, hey, all the quarterbacks were out there. And so I think he worked in silence, and it's paid off for him so far. It's one of the things that's important for this team. But I still contend, and I may be wrong, I still contend that the biggest key for this team is going to be consistently running the football against teams and finding playmakers at wide receiver. If you don't do those two things, then that quarterback position is difficult no matter who you got.
Yeah. And you think about the tight ends as well, how important they're going to be. You look at Georgia, their tight ends last year scored 15 touchdowns. That was more than anybody in the 130 teams in Division I. And Auburn's got some pretty damn good tight ends too. And they got a hybrid Landon King. He's like 6'5" out of Beaumont, Texas, that is very promising. And you just got to have that, the running game in the SEC. You got to be able to run the ball. No matter how much we think about it, you got to control the line of scrimmage. And in the fourth quarter, if you're still throwing the ball around, there's a very good chance you're going to turn it over, and you're going to let your opponent be back in the game, AKA the early years of Spurrier before Eric Rhett and Fred Taylor came along and started controlling the clock in the fourth quarter. That's just my take on it. Jimmy?
Yeah. Well, Jason, we've asked this question to several other media insiders that follow different schools, and I think this situation probably applies to Auburn as much as anybody. But with this final scrimmage today, how many starting positions out of the top 22 do you think are up for grabs? And is this quarterback race to the point that if Finley is solid today, that he could very well maybe be named the starter for the season opener within the next 3 or 4 days?
Yeah. I don't know how much of a separation it would take for one of the other guys to grasp hold of the job in one scrimmage. So, I think what we're going to see, and I've said this, I think from the get-go, even here, is like, I think we're going to see multiple quarterbacks against Mercer, no matter what happens in this scrimmage. I think we're going to see T.J. Finley, Zach Calzada, and now my feeling is we're going to see T.J. Finley, Zach Calzada, and Robbie Ashford in some form or fashion. I think we're going to see all three of those guys. In that first game, I just think that's where we are right now. Unless, the only thing that would change that is if T.J. Finley is so much better than the other guys in scrimmage number 2, and there's mistakes and things like that they go like, it's clearly, and it's not close. I think it's close. Even though I think T.J. Finley's there, I don't think it's a wide gulf between him and everybody else. So that's where it starts. You asked about the other 22 positions. I think defensively, I think you're pretty settled on most spots, kind of depending on what they want to do defensively. If you're playing, kind of a more of a pass rush style, I think you'll see, Derek Hall, Ekuliota. I consider those guys starters, even if only one of them's on the field. Those are 2 starters outside. Colby Wooden, obviously, Marcus Harris, and then Jason Jones is a guy that will play a ton, even if he doesn't start, kind of depending on what kind of scheme they run. But Owen Popo, I think Cam Riley has earned a starting job at linebacker for this team, but Wesley Steiner's right there too. We know Jalen Simpson and Nehemiah Pritchett at corner. We know some spots. Donovan Kaufman's going to be on the field. It's offense where there's a ton of questions. I would say right now, absolutely, you go, hey, these guys are going to be starters on offense. I think it's Tank Bigsby. I think it's John Samuel Schenker. I think it's Killian Zaire. And I think it's Austin Troxel. I feel pretty certain about Shedrick Jackson just because of the things he's done on and off the field that he'll be other than that, I think they're still pretty wide open pretty much everywhere.
I look at along the lines of what you're just saying, and I think about a guy that you and I talked about him when he was in high school. And the recruiting services had him a 5-star, the number 1 player in Alabama out of Roanoke. And I'm talking about Dylan Brooks. And he was going to Tennessee, committed April 27th of 2020. And they had him listed, 35 pounds over what his real weight was. And here we are now. They're saying his biggest problem is trying to put the weight on him. How much upside does Dylan Brooks have, and what do you expect his role to be this year from what you've seen in spring practice and practice in August to this point?
Yeah, and I think he's improved. His problem was he got right at the start of camp and had some kind of a stomach bug, and he lost 15 pounds in about 4 days. And so now you try to put that back on. So I think most of it's back on now.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, I think for him it's just, he's a redshirt freshman, and nowadays you look at it and you expect those guys to hit the ground running when in reality he's probably more like most of these young guys will be, especially coming from a smaller school. He played in 4A football at Henley High School in Roanoke, and they didn't throw it a ton. They didn't play teams that threw it a ton. Okay. And so you're talking about pass rush moves, all those things that you just have to develop. So, I think the one issue for me was that he didn't get on the field at all last year. I thought it was a missed opportunity for him and a lot of those young defensive linemen just to kind of get your feet wet, just to get a few snaps. You can still redshirt. And so now he's still it's very much unknown for him. So the speed of the game, all those things he'll have to figure out. But I think there's development there. I think I've seen improvement. The athletic ability's there. Now it's just a matter of learning the physicality that's needed to play at this level, because you can excel in the high school ranks just by being bigger and faster than everybody else. You Correct. Can't do that when you get to college.
Yeah. It's like, welcome to the practice field. You were the best player on your team, and there's probably 100 other people who can say that. Some of them may have been the best player in their state or at their position in the country. And that's you're right. And that's interesting. Another one, in 2003, Tommy Tuberville, his job was gone, then he got it back. And man, that team, you had Cadillac and Ronnie Brown, and you had Jason Campbell. All these guys came back. Carlos Rogers, you name it. They came back in 2004, and they really rallied around Tommy Tuberville. am not saying this Auburn team has 4 first-round draft picks that are going to start on Saturdays right now, but I sense a closeness and a resolve among the members of this Auburn football team to give the outside world the finger and say, I don't care what y'all think. You're not writing the narrative. You're not writing the story of the 2022 Auburn Tigers. Get the hell out of our way. Watch out. That's what I'm seeing. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, I think the mentality's there, but that goes out the window when you kick the ball off.
Yeah.
It only goes so far, and again, it comes back to those other things that we talked about. And there's things on defense too. They got to create turnovers. You got to create negative plays. There's things you have to do. You go back and look last year. Cincinnati, Alabama, Ohio State were all, I think, in the top 5 in forced turnovers on defense. There's 3 of the 4 playoff teams. There's things you have to do that this team has to do better. And you can talk about it and you can do all those things, but you got to go do it. And so I think the potential is there. I think they've got the right mindset. But then it also comes back to, are you better than that other guy?
Yeah.
I think they got some guys that are better than that other guy. I think they got some guys that with the potential to get there, but like depth on the defensive line. I think there's more bodies. Now we got to see if there's more players, and that's what we can't answer until they get week 5, 6, and get into the grind of the Southeastern Conference. Then we'll know a little bit more.
Jimmy and I both have been talking about him a lot. Owen Papo. He got injured last year, and anytime you have any kind of an ankle injury, it just takes, those are so hard to heal. He looks really healthy. How big a role, and the other one is Cam Riley out of Evergreen, Alabama. He's put on some weight. He's 6'5", he's rangy. Kind of break it down. The starting linebackers for Auburn could be really good, but the concern is the depth.
Yes. And I think Desmond Tisdale's come on. I think Christian Robinson's done a really good job at the linebacker group. I think they've taken some big steps forward. Again, Wesley Steiner, I talked about him, and Desmond Tisdale. You added Eugene Asante. Somebody asked me recently, what's the position that you were most concerned about that you feel much better about now? And I said linebacker. I think that's a position that has improved that much. I think it's one that, and obviously Owen Papo is the key. I mean, without him, it changes things dramatically because of his experience and because he's a 5-star guy for a reason, because he has those physical tools and is a leader, does all the things that you want to do. But I think the group as a whole, I think they've come on a good bit. And Cam Riley's another key for me for this team, because I think he can be a dominant player when he realizes he can be a dominant player. Will that happen? I think that's the key for him, because he can do it. I think now he has to realize he can be that guy. And if he does, then it can change the defense in a hurry.
Yeah. Jimmy?
Well, I'm curious, Jason, what your take is from, talking to your sources about the chemistry with the coaching staff, because Brian Harsin has brought in his quote unquote his guys as coordinators, because he has a long history with them dating back, to Boise State. And I think it was really evidenced, especially on the defensive side of the ball in the Iron Bowl, where I think Schmedding was really running or putting together the game plan, which was a blitz-heavy scheme, which was very successful against Bama. And do you see, especially defensively, Auburn being much more aggressive and attacking on the defensive side of the ball, while on the offense, clearly, you want to get a quarterback settled in and develop some confidence there. And it just seems like to me the first 2 games are a perfect opportunity for Auburn to really focus on executing their core game plan and try to perfect that as much as possible, which will, give them, I think, plenty of time to get ready for that big game on week 3 against Penn State.
Yeah, it's kind of that old, question mark for, how you're going to do things. Do you show your hand and allow opponents to get film on it and practice those things, or do you try to keep it a secret and kind of run base things and have some new wrinkles? I would expect a little bit of both. I don't think they'll show everything they want to do because it's just, essentially it's the same defense. It might be called differently, and that's the thing that you think about. It was Ryan Harson's offense, and it's basically the same defense they had last year. How the game is called is how things are done differently. It kind of reminds me of, Rob brought up 2003, those 2001 and 2 offenses in 2003 were the same offense, but you had the different play caller, and they looked completely different because of it. And so I think that's going to be the thing this year is, do you do the right things at the right times? It helps. The best play caller is helped when you have guys that just make plays. If Derek Hall, Eku, Leola, Colby Wooden, if those guys are disruptive on the defensive front, it doesn't really matter what you call on defense a lot of times because those guys make a play. Same thing on offense. You got the offensive line that's knocking out holes, then it opens up the entire playbook. So, I think they're on the same page, but it all comes down to finding guys that make plays.
Yeah, and Jason, we got a couple of minutes left in this segment, and I know you got a big day ahead of you. Keontae Scott, talked about him. Yeah,
junior college guy that he was only on campus about 2 days before they started practicing. But he had a good idea of the defense and kind of the things that he was supposed to do, and he's a mature guy. You can see it on the field when you look at him. Look at the things he can do, and that's a position probably that and running back are probably the 2 positions in football where you can get on the field the earliest when you start talking about corner and running back, because you can limit what you're doing there and still do things. You go like, hey, we're playing man, that's your guy, and play defense. And so I think he's come in and made some plays. He looks the part for sure. And so I think it'll be as they continue to add more to the defense, can you stay and play fast and not have to think about it? That's kind of the toughest part for guys when you're learning. You look really good early in camp because it's basic.
Yeah.
The more you add, the more can you continue to play that fast, and that's kind of the challenge for him now.
Yeah, I got it. Jason, tell people how they can follow you and all the great content you're putting out.
Yeah, you can check us out at autigers.com, auburnundercover.com as well as part of the 247 network, and you can also follow me on Twitter at ITATJason.
Jason, look, man, scrimmage tonight. I know everybody listening, Jason, Caldwell, there will be great takeaways from the scrimmage. And so you just got the addresses. Tune in and follow if you want to learn something about Auburn. Let's take a quick break. We'll be right back with Tommy Kane over in Atlanta. Take a peek at the ACC after this break.
Red River Ford and Toyota, located in Wynne, Arkansas. If you're in the market for a new or used car, truck, or SUV, call, go online, or drop by and see them. Located 45 minutes from Memphis, go off the 4-City exit on I-40 and go north about 15 minutes on Highway 1. Easy to work with and still believe in customer service. If you live out of town, they will deliver your vehicle to you. RedRiverFordToyota.com. Just see what they can do.
Strengthen your seed zone this spring with quality tillage equipment from House Industries. Located in Cherry Valley, Arkansas, House Industries specializes in manufacturing superior equipment that will minimize your downtime and keep you working in the field. To ensure the highest quality control, all design, fabrication, and testing takes place in a 99,000 square foot manufacturing facility located right here in the heart of the Delta. Locate your nearest House equipment dealer online at houseindustriesinc.com.
House Industries, breaking ground.
Sidelines with Rob Brown. Talk sporty to me.
All right, Rob Brown, Jimmy Hodge here with you. Be joined in just a moment by Tommy Kane over in Atlanta. Great takeaways that I got from that conversation with Jason Caldwell of Inside the Auburn Tigers is the quarterback play of TJ Finley. He's not number one right now for any other reason besides the fact that he's got a better grasp of the offense. And while Zach Calzada was injured in the spring and during the summer, he's been working hard. So too have Robbie Ashford, TJ Finley, Holden Geringer, and everybody in that quarterback room. But you've got a legitimate quarterback competition. And a lot of times coaches will say there's competition in the quarterback room, but it's set in stone, and you start letting politics get involved, and you'll play a guy regardless. Brian Harsin is a trained killer. I mean, he'll pull you in a heartbeat if you're not getting the job done. And that's what I like about him. He's not there to be these players' friends. I mean, that's my own kids have told me the problem in society today is too many parents want to be their kid's best friend. And of course, I know my kids don't like me, so that's we're not friends, but that's good takeaways on that quarterback room development. Let's talk to another smart guy, Tommy Kane over in Atlanta, NC State grad, Wolfpack basketball player from Wilmington. Tommy, this has been a wild summer. I know, we had a big flare up about 6 weeks ago about conference expansion. What's going to happen? Hell, who knows? I mean, but I know this much. The closer we've been getting to the first kickoff of a college football game, the less we've heard about the transfer portal and NIL and all that other crap. That's what I love. Let's play the games. Look, there's some great storylines in the ACC. Sam Hartman, quarterback for Wake Forest. I hate that he's out. I don't know for how long or whatever, but let's start with your Wolfpack. I mean, last year they won 9 games. They beat Clemson in double overtime. They've got a rabid fan base, and there are a lot of these rabid fan bases in the ACC, and it's almost like they're torn between basketball and football. But if they ever put the energy into football that a lot of them do into basketball, I think that solves the problem, don't you?
Yeah, good to be back on the show, Jay. It's been a while, but
real simple.
Let me just step back a little bit. NC State won 10 games last year, if you ask me, because they got hosed by the UCLA debacle.
No, I agree.
The day before, if not the day of the game, and so in my book, they got the double-digit win last year. But yeah, the ACC fans passionate about the basketball, always have been, but that's just because the ACC basketball has been so good for so long that's just.
Oh gosh, I just cut everybody off. Hold on 1 second. Here we go.
Connected.
Yeah, and we interrupt this program to bring you a special bulletin. We're experiencing technical difficulties. We have to get some of that bad music in the background. That was my fault. My fat fingers. I'm glad I'm not a trader on the stock exchange. Was that 1 million shares or 1 billion? You just took it. You just took out the
one
entire
extra zero makes a big difference.
Yeah, you just took out the entire economy of Singapore. I'm sorry. We'll do lunch. But anyway, Tommy, you're right. The ACC last year had 3 of the Elite 8 in basketball, and you get it. But for some people in America may not. Jimmy gets it. I do. How big ACC basketball is. And then I think, they play pretty damn good football. You just want top to bottom there to be more depth. And I agree. NC State last year got robbed for the bowl game. Doran's they've got money. They got everything you need. And there are a lot of players within 250 miles of Raleigh.
That's right. And, I think to me, with the ACC is like I said, the consistency of winning in basketball over the years and years and years just makes the rivalries bigger, makes the fans bigger. And there's just the consistency that every year we're going to have 2, if not, 3 or 4 teams in the top 15 every year, just banging and vying for the, the best in the country title and stuff like that. But, when it comes to football, it's just, other than Clemson, it's just been really inconsistent ever since they kind of expanded to the point where we are today with all the teams. And, the hope, I think, was for, the Florida State and Miami's to have those big rivalries in their conference every year and in their division and kind of get that going. But that never really has come to fruition as much as the conference thought they would. But at the end of the day, yes, NC State, some teams have definitely put together a nice program, and there is a lot of passion right now in Wolfpack Nation. I'll tell you that. There's a lot of excitement, a lot of anticipation. And I got to give them credit. Like, Dave Doran has been there for a while now, and there were some years there when it was pretty lean for the Wolfpack, and they were struggling. And it's so easy these days just to kind of like just throw him out with the trash. He's not winning. He hasn't won in 2 years. Get rid of him. But I got to give him credit for the school for sticking with him and letting him build his program to the point he is now. And he's got a heck of a football team with a lot of guys. It speaks a lot when there's a lot of guys that could have gone pro, but they stayed and came back to play. I think that just speaks a lot for what kind of program he's running there. And I will tell you this, if you guys haven't watched it on the ACC network, they're doing an all access this year on NC State football. It's kind of like the behind the scenes of all their practice and everything like that. And it's a great watch, really, really good watch if you haven't seen that. So,
well, hey, last year I remember, and Jimmy and I were talking about it with you, they did a preseason. ACC network will go to every campus. I love that. And I tell you what, I thought that Thursday night coverage of the NC State, I was over in Atlanta in watching that game against South Florida. I think y'all beat them 45-0, but man, they were, ACC network, their game day, like ACC Nation, like SEC Nation. Good Lord, those Wolfpack fans, they are rabid. They really, and that's a look. One thing I've noticed is we talk about this conference is better than that one, whatever. Well, and they base it off of the matchups in the bowl games. We're not talking about, Tennessee playing in Raleigh or Clemson playing in the real Death Valley. I'm kidding. No. And Clemson playing a night game at LSU. We're not talking about, Florida playing at North Carolina. Regular season. Because I've been to regular season SEC, ACC matchups, and man, those guys, there's a lot of familiarity with those guys. They know each other. So, and I'm just saying, the one thing that drives me crazy is Jim Phillips, the ACC commissioner. He's got to be aware of what's going on, and get that contract renegotiated. You cannot let your conference members get 35 or 40 million when, say, in the state of Florida, the Gators are going to be getting north of 80 million, between 80 and 100 when Texas and Oklahoma come in. You got to fix that. I'm not an attorney. I don't negotiate TV contracts, but the eyeball test tells me that they need to get really aggressive and rattle cages with the TV people and do whatever they can. No means tell me more. I'm in sales, Tommy. You know that.
Right. Yeah. It's the landscape of college football as we know it is changing rapidly, as you mentioned earlier. And now with this big TV contract for the Big Ten, it's just out of bounds. It's like, who's going to be able to compete? Who's going to be able to? It's just such a huge advantage when you talk about $80 to $100 million a year for each school, which is almost doubling, close to doubling what they were getting. That's just a huge amount of money. So it'll be interesting to see what trickles down and comes down, and all these in the SEC that will be next, like you mentioned. Obviously their record speaks for themselves across the board as far as their fan base and how well the SEC has performed year in and year out. The ACC has got some ground to make up. There's no question. So what's the next step? What is the right step? Do they expand and try to get some big power and a couple other big teams in there to kind of help it out, or they just stay pat and see how it is? I think, obviously the key to it could be Notre Dame, like we talked about last time I was on with you guys. Golly, if we could somehow get those guys in full-time football and all that stuff, we could see what happens there. But anyway, it's interesting. Money talks, right? And when these schools are getting $80 to $100 million a year in their pocket, it's a big advantage for those schools. That's for sure.
Yeah, I wonder if that means in 5 years the tickets to the games will be free. But anyway, Jimmy, jump in here.
Hey, Tommy, I couldn't help but laugh when you were telling the story about UCLA pulling out of their game with State last year. Imagine if you were a Memphis fan and last year you're going over to play the Rainbow Warriors in the Hawaii Bowl, and then you've been there for 4 or 5 days getting ready for the game. Your fans are looking forward to the game. And then the night before the game is to be played, Hawaii announces, we're not going to be able to play this game because of too many positive COVID tests. Our bad. We really appreciate you guys flying all the way over here, but hey, have a nice flight back, you know?
Right. I mean, there's worse places to be stuck, right? I mean, come on, it's like, that's not such a bad thing as you go to Hawaii, but I agree with you. I mean, you know, that hopefully we're over that. Hopefully that won't rear its head again this year with everything. I mean, who knows though, but hopefully it won't. And, but yeah, Memphis got a short end of that stick as well. And, you know, that's all the fans too, like you said, you know, the fans, even the fans, NC State, you know, like you said, they travel well. We were a bunch of guys were in UCLA ready to go to the game in California. Everything else is fired up and you know, it's holidays and everything else. And they tell them there's no game. I mean, I just think it's a unfortunate situation all the way around. I mean, who knows the right way to handle that kind of stuff, but hopefully we will not have to worry about that this year, because this year is going to be setting up for a really good college football season, especially in the ACC. There's just so many teams that have a pretty good nucleus coming back, and we'll see what happens. So.
Well, what's your take on, you know, what you're hearing from ACC officials, because they've got to really be concerned, because as you mentioned, numbers are numbers, and ACC teams right now under the current TV contract that is in place until 2036, each school is getting approximately $32 million unless that's been adjusted. And with, you know, Notre Dame looking at a possible Big Ten or SEC expansion in the future, because those are far and away the most financially endowed conferences right now. And the rumor is when not only with the Big Ten announcing their big deal yesterday, and then the SEC renewing their deal next year with the addition of Texas and Oklahoma, each school in both of those conferences is expecting to make somewhere around $100 million a year. And that really makes things scary for, I think, ACC officials, because the Florida States, Clemson's, Miami's of that stratosphere that have had great football success in the past have to be looking at the you know, the financial rewards that could be there if these other schools are, you know, looking to expand, which could very well happen pretty soon.
Yeah, I mean, you guys, who knows? I mean, I wish I had a crystal ball. Of course, we all do, but I would not want to be the ACC brass, having to try to figure this out and navigate these waters. I mean, you know, it's just, when you're talking about the contract that the Big Ten just signed, I mean, it's astronomical, and there's just no way that the ACC could even compete with that right now. And as far as trying to get a deal like that done, there's not a big enough draw with the teams they have. And yeah, you know, but I think that, you know, the footprint is, you know, when they started expanding and went up to the New York to Syracuse and Pittsburgh and all those things that started expanding years ago, that you know, that'll help because of, again, the TV market that they'll be able to expand into if they do that. Who knows, guys? I mean, it's just when if you'd have told me a couple of years ago that somebody with a conference would have signed the contract like the Big Ten just signed, I would have said, "You crazy? There's no way. That's ridiculous money." But it happened. So who knows? You know, if somehow the ACC can maybe tie it all in with basketball and get everything, the rights with that too, maybe make it sell that way, because that is kind of their ace in the hole, is having all, you know, the basketball games that they have. But again, guys, I mean, I don't have a crystal ball, but I just would not want to be the brass and trying to figure it all out, because it's crazy. It's just crazy.
It is.
So.
And you think about this Big Ten contract, and is it $1 billion? Is it $1.4 billion? $1.5 billion? I mean, pretty soon this is going to be real money. I mean, that's like when you hear government projects, this should cost between 100 and 150 billion. Well, really what that 100 to 150 is is how much graft and corruption people can send down as favors. Now you start looking at these TV contracts. I think about the SEC was getting $55 million a year from CBS. Supposedly the new deal with Disney is going to be $300 million a year. But we're hearing when Texas and Oklahoma come in, and we already know they're coming in, it might go to $600 or $700 million. But 65-70% of the TV sets are in the geographical footprint that make up the Big Ten. You just have to wonder, like, I keep asking this, something's telling me, did the SEC just get, rear-ended? Because the Big Ten, ESPN has been boxed out by CBS, NBC, and Fox. Now, Fox has a ton of money. Are they going to make a move to buy ESPN? Is Disney going to unload ESPN? Is Apple going to get involved? Because they've got the built-in network of people that hold their TV sets in their hands.
That's a good point.
Much less their lives. And I'm telling you, I mean, don't discount the fact that the CEO of Apple is a native of Robertsdale, Alabama, Baldwin County, Tim Cook, an Auburn grad with an MBA from Duke. Okay, don't think he's not thinking about this stuff, because I don't know Tim Cook, but that guy loves college football, loves college sports. I'll tell you right now, we're gonna go to a break here. When we come back, Tommy, what's your thoughts about, what about if you did get Notre Dame in the ACC? If you did, West Virginia is kind of like, the kid that wears dirty clothes to school every day and smells. I mean, but if you give it, I'm saying, look, my brother-in-law played college football at Virginia Tech. He's from Rich Creek, right on the West Virginia border. He loved that rivalry with West Virginia. They got a big endowment. They got a medical school. There's not a lot of flat land up there, but where are they going to go? I mean, somebody's got to take them. I don't know what they bring to the table. We're going to talk about it after this quick break.
Red River Ford and Toyota, located in Wynne, Arkansas. If you're in the market for a new or used car, truck, or SUV, call, go online, or drop by and see them. Located 45 minutes from Memphis, go off the 4-city exit on I-40 and go north about 15 minutes on Highway 1. Easy to work with and still believe in customer service. If you live out of town, they will deliver your vehicle to you. RedRiverFordToyota.com. Just see what they can do.
Strengthen your seed zone this spring with quality tillage equipment from House Industries. Located in Cherry Valley, Arkansas, House Industries specializes in manufacturing superior equipment that will minimize your downtime and keep you working in the field. To ensure the highest quality control, all design, fabrication, and testing takes place in a 99,000 square foot manufacturing facility located right here in the heart of the Delta. Locate your nearest House equipment dealer online at houseindustriesinc.com.
House Industries, breaking ground.
Sidelines with Rob Brown. Talk sporty to me.
All right, almost heaven, West Virginia. Audrey said, they're kind of like Pigpen, but I mean, no. I've been to West Virginia, and it's beautiful, but it's an hour south of Pittsburgh. We need. It just makes sense for that rivalry, the backyard brawl, to come back. We need it, but somebody's got to take them. But the ACC needs to be aggressive. You almost wish, they could get Maryland back in the league, and the Big Ten could take somebody else. But I'm just wondering, Tommy, from what you're hearing, the ACC, where is the ACC network? It's headquartered in Charlotte or Greensboro?
It's in Charlotte.
It's in Charlotte. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, a lot of the
SEC.
I mean, a lot of the studio stuff they still do out of Bristol and stuff like that from ESPN, but a lot of the guys are in Charlotte. Yeah.
Well, here's my point, and I say this, I'm being totally serious, not just because you're on here, but why are you? I mean, you would be a great point man running that network. because I'm just telling you, I just got you a big raise. Okay. Tell your wife.
There'd be
and
a lot of NC State games on that network. I'd tell you that much.
That damn right they would be. I mean, you'd have the wolf pack. But I'm just saying, you got to have people that it matters to. You know, the SEC has that slogan. It just means more. Well, also add, this just makes sense. I mean, the fastest growth in the Catholic Church in the United States is in the South. Okay. Notre Dame, if it's the SEC or the ACC, they got a ton of fans down here. I mean, I go to Mass, everybody in there, they're SEC people, Memphis, you name it, but they're Catholic. They all have a golden helmet in their closet. They grew up with it. That's how it is. You know, they grew up playing bingo and eating fish sticks on Friday. Okay. Notre Dame, Mrs. Paul's, man, you know, she's a Notre Dame fan. You know, I think about, okay, how are we going to save it? Because we better be careful. You know, again, I go back, you can hate your rival all you want, but deep down you respect them, because it would mean nothing to beat a team that's 1-11 or 2-10. Okay. That just doesn't matter. Give me in your opinion, your top 3 rivals of NC State in all sports. Well, let's do it in football and then basketball.
Oh my gosh. Well, I mean, it's the same for both. I mean, but you know, as far as I'm concerned, and most everybody would tell you, you know, without a doubt, Chapel Hill is our biggest rival, hands down. I mean, in every sport, it's just, you know, it's always has been. And it's funny because when I was growing up in North Carolina in the, you know, in the mid 70s, early 80s and stuff like that, I mean, the rivalry in the state was NC State and North Carolina. Yeah. NC State was coming up a whole lot of success with the David Thompson years in the 70s and all that stuff. But it was NC State and North Carolina was the rivalry for basketball in the conference, really. And then when Coach K got at Duke and Duke started ruffling feathers and kind of becoming good, and they really became the Duke-North Carolina rivalry that took center stage, and rightfully so. I mean, those two programs have had enormous success in basketball, but so those two, I'm sure, would say to each other for their rival. But as far as NC State goes, I mean, without question, it's North Carolina in basketball and football. I would think second for us would be Duke in basketball, and then probably Florida State in football. I mean, because when Florida State first came in the league, you know, we had really good success against Florida State, knocking them off quite a few years and here and there when they were really at the top of their game. We would kind of run the upset flag pole up. And so, you know, I would say those two as far as football goes. I would say probably Chapel Hill and Florida State. And I mean, God, Clemson's right there too. I mean, with the Textile Bowl,
exactly.
You know, the Textile Bowl's been going on forever. So they're there. And of course, we've had some great battles with them in the last couple of years, and this year will be no different. Golly, I think it's October 1st will be the big showdown between State and Clemson, which very well could, you know, make the difference. One of those teams having a shot at winning an ACC championship like it does every year. So, yeah, I would say those guys. Yeah.
Well, I was going to say the Textile Bowl, and did Russell Athletic give a trophy for that? Being out of Alexander City, Russell Athletic, you know, they've done a lot for Auburn and Alabama over the years, and you know, Auburn now is an Under Armour school, and a lot of things have changed over the years. But, you know, Auburn has that College of Textile Engineering. Clemson does. NC State. That's the kind of stuff that's so unique about college football. You go up Interstate 85 from Montgomery all the way to Petersburg, Virginia. A lot of textile mills. There have been, not as many as there used to be, but that's what we love about the college rivalries. And I was going to say, you've got to have Clemson up there, and you know, their fan base. I think what's going on, and again, Jimmy, I believe you said he was in line to. People thought he was going to be the commissioner of the Big Ten before Kevin Warren got that job. But you know, I'm asking you this, Tommy. You're there in Atlanta. It's the largest alumni base of every school in the SEC and the ACC outside of their respective states. In the case of Georgia Tech, it is because they're in the state of Georgia.
Right.
Although I wonder sometimes if they're committed to being in the ACC. No. Their athletic director from Canada, hey, there's a football game today, Come on, Stansberry. But tell me this. When I was excited last year watching Pitt. comeback with Kenny Pickett. I mean, they won
Oh yeah,
11 games.
yeah.
And there are a lot of football players in Pennsylvania. I think I've got them on the list, 8th most productive state for producing Division I college football players in these here United States. And man, they got a lot of money. Birmingham's a lot like Pittsburgh, vice versa. Steel. And when a lot of the steel industry moved away, there's still a lot of it there in Birmingham and Pittsburgh, but they became medical centers. Look at Birmingham. Look at Pittsburgh.
Right.
And so there's some cool stories. And Mario Cristobal's at Miami. Mike Norvell trying to get rolling at Florida State. So there, I think if I'm an investor, and I do this for, 31 years and wealth management with stocks and investments, I'm looking at the ACC and going, wow. Sir John Templeton said it best. Don't tell me where everything's good. Tell me where there's blood in the streets. That's the ACC right now. I think there's a lot of value because they know if they don't ramp it up and change things, they could be in a lot more trouble than they are right now. So if I put you in charge of the ACC, made you commissioner, or at least running the ACC network, what are a couple of things you'd want to do right now from day one?
Well, I think, it's
I love asking these questions.
I just go and crown NC State the champions and just walk away. No, I think, it's interesting because, I was thinking about this the other day when they broke up, the Atlantic Division, Coastal Divisions are going away.
Yeah.
They're making it into just one big thing. And when they did that, because obviously there's even number team in both divisions right now with 8 on each side, right? Or 7 on each side. You got to wonder, did they do that so that then Notre Dame can get in and there's an even number across the board? It's everybody's kind of doesn't mess up one of the things. So if I was commissioner right now, I would make a priority to somehow get Notre Dame into the mix somehow, some way, make them commit to football year round. And then I would with them. And then I think it's kind of like, if you can get them in your back pocket, then it would be easier to try to go out and get a couple other bigger schools too, to come in and say, hey, you can play Notre Dame every year, this kind of thing, whatever, and just build off of that from a football standpoint. So, I think that would be my number one priority, is just to get Notre Dame to commit full-time football to the conference and just build it off of there and just see where we can go from there. But like I said earlier, guys, I would not want to be those guys, the brass, and have to do that. But priority-wise, I would do Notre Dame, make Notre Dame, get them on board and see where we can go from there, and just hope for the best. Because the ACC, I really don't think the ACC is not going anywhere in the next 4 or 5 years. It's not going to be pulled apart with all different teams going everywhere. I just don't believe that, because I'm a traditionalist too and a purist, and I love for it to just stay together. Like we talked about during basketball season, I was upset when they expanded it years ago. I wanted to keep the core, the original core. But it's the changing landscape of college football, and it's just so many things that are changing with the NIL and the transfer portal and now these TV contracts. It's just turning upside down. So, there's something to said to be just staying pat, just seeing where everything kind of plays out, and then maybe making a move, but not doing anything too hastily and trying to get things done with not really thinking things through. But number one priority, I would think, would just get Notre Dame on board, and I think you can try to build off of that.
Yeah,
so.
I think that's a great plan, and like you say, we all love the history, the tradition, the heroes that make college football, basketball, and all so special. And the canary in the coal mine that we better fix this is Coach K stepping down, is Jay Wright stepping down, is Roy Williams stepping down, and we don't want to see that stuff because love them, hate them. You don't really hate them. You respect them, and you say hate because you don't want to say you respect your rival. It's like with people, what are the 3 biggest lies? Hey, I'm here from the government and I'm here to help you. The checks in the mail, and honey, I'll still respect you in the morning. But I digress. It's crazy. Jimmy, jump into this conversation.
Well, the only chance on earth that the ACC has any future in regard to football relevance is to land Notre Dame. But again, it's dollars and cents. And Notre Dame knows right now, if they wanted, they could join if they called the Big Ten office or the SEC office today asking if they could apply for membership, Warren, and Sankey would say, would you like to do this yesterday? I mean, they are in the catbird seat. And it's reported that even though the NBC package is unbelievably low, it's only $15 million a year for Notre Dame home games. The word is NBC has floated a figure of $75 million a year, if they could extend this home game contract. So Notre Dame is going to be fine as an independent, which is what they would prefer. But if circumstances warrant it, if they're going to a conference, it's only going to be to the SEC or the Big Ten just because of the financial gulf. As a matter of fact, after the announcement was made of the Big Ten agreement with NBC, CBS, and Fox, one network executive said, basically, this is the Big Two and everybody else. I don't even know how they can continue calling it the Power Five anymore. I mean, that is how big the financial gulf is right now. And as Tommy said, I would not want to be in that ACC corporate office trying to figure something out, because outside of Notre Dame, there are no licensing giants that are left to try to expand or to get to come to the ACC. And I wanted to ask you this, Tommy. What were you thinking about a month ago when the ACC and the Pac-12 tried to concoct this short-lived idea of some kind of merger? That was the weirdest thing I've ever heard. They had discussion for about 2 weeks, and finally somebody came to their senses and said no. I mean, it was a good thought, but hey, no go.
Yeah, I mean, I think who knows? I mean, everybody's just kind of have these grand illusions sometimes, the big dreams of what could be if they did do something like that. But you don't really think it through when it comes to contracts and grant rights and all that stuff. And I mean, there's a lot of other things that play in part and all that stuff. But I think it's just somebody's just big grand illusion, like, oh my gosh, how great would this be if we could do this? But it just doesn't work out at the end of the day. But you know what, guys, like you said to start the whole thing, I mean, this whole conversation today, at the end of the day, like, college football is here. It's starting in a couple of weeks. We're going to have live football every Saturday. It's going to be rocking and rolling. It's just going to be awesome. The fans are going to get into it, and the stats are going to start piling up, and the fantasy leagues are going to be going. Everything else is going to be happening, and hopefully all this conference talk and everything else, and the NIL and everything else, will just kind of go by the wayside, and we can just enjoy some young men out there playing their hearts out for the schools and trying to win football games and getting that rivalries and the pageantries going and the tailgating, and that's what it's all about. So hopefully, I mean, I'll be honest with you, kind of like when you get into the political stuff right around election time, I'm tired of hearing everything. Let's get to the games,
Yeah.
So,
Tommy, and also think about how many guys are out there like us, promising their girlfriends or their wives, look, we're going to take a nice trip and wherever you want to go after football season, and it's just, but we got to have that time, man. There's nothing like it. And, Jimmy and I and you, and we all, I mean, I'm watching it because it's the game. Celebrate the game and what it represents. And yeah, you're right. I guarantee you there's some tight sphincters over there at the ACC headquarters office when they're talking about, all right, how are we going to negotiate and get through all this stuff? They got to figure out a way to do it. And, golly, man, you think about John Swofford, and I don't know, is he the best they've had in a long time, but you think that some smart people would get together. They got a lot of smart, graduates of these ACC schools. And I would think they would, have a powwow, get everybody together and say, okay, we have to decide, do we want to remain relevant and strong? We've got the basketball thing. Last year, the SEC kept flirting with, greatness as a league. No, it was not. It was not. It was the ACC. 3 of the Elite 8 and Duke and North Carolina, that Final Four, that was just unbelievable. At Tobacco Road, there's a reason why it has that reputation. So, Tommy, we're about out of time, but we got about a minute and 15 seconds left till we go to the break. Great stuff, but your takeaway and what kind of season you think we're going to see in ACC football? Are we going to see a bigger emphasis on everybody getting better?
Oh, I think so. I mean, there's a lot of interesting things to follow this year. I mean, you talk about, there's some pretty good quarterback play in the league. And unfortunately, like you mentioned about Sam Hartman stepping down at Wake Forest, which is unfortunate. Hopefully we'll see him again this year. But, but he was, but there's some good quarterback play between Devin Leary, and then you got Tyler Van Dyke at Miami. I'm interested to see him. I mean, he had a breakout season last year at Miami, and kind of it'd be interesting to see if he can do it again. He's kind of really unproven other than just the one season, but there's some high expectations down in Coral Gables right now for the University of Miami. So we'll see what happens there. If they can come out of the Coastal Division, which with Pitt having a new quarterback and a lot of guys having new quarterbacks in place in North Carolina as well. It'll be interesting to see what happens there. But I think you're looking for Miami to come out of the Coastal for sure. And then the Atlantic, my gosh, I think it's going to, it could really just come down to NC State and Clemson as it did in the last couple of years. But then you got freaking Malik Cunningham at Louisville who can basically take over a game if he wants to.
Yeah.
So it's gonna be a fun season for sure. And it'll be hopefully it'll all flesh out the way we want it to, and we'll just see some good college football all season long.
Look, Tommy, we got to get you back on next week. I'm going to push hard. Whoever I can help, hire Tommy Kane, run the ACC. The man has a vision and a plan, and he will make it work. Hey, Tommy, we'll do it again next week. We'll be right back. Go Wolfpack after this break.
Red River Ford and Toyota, located in Wynne, Arkansas. If you're in the market for a new or used car, truck, or SUV, call, go online, or drop by and see them. Located 45 minutes from Memphis, go off the 4-city exit on I-40 and go north about 15 minutes on Highway 1. Easy to work with and still believe in customer service. If you live out of town, they will deliver your vehicle to you. RedRiverFordToyota.com. Just see what they can do.
Strengthen your seed zone this spring with quality tillage equipment from House Industries. Located in Cherry Valley, Arkansas, House Industries specializes in manufacturing superior equipment that will minimize your downtime and keep you working in the field. To ensure the highest quality control, all design, fabrication, and testing takes place in a 99,000 square foot manufacturing facility located right here in the heart of the Delta. Locate your nearest House equipment dealer online at houseindustriesinc.com.
House Industries, breaking ground.
Sidelines with Rob Brown. Talk sporty to me.
All right, Rob Brown back here with you. Franz Beard joins us, GatorBaitMedia.com down in the swamp, and a great segment there with Tommy Kane talking about the ACC. And hey, man, you got to have somebody with leadership skills. He'd be a great commissioner. I think he'd be better than Jim Phillips is doing. I can guarantee you that. But Tommy has a vision. Here's another man with a vision who is way ahead of the curve, talking about all the stuff happening in college athletics. And Franz, it was you 6 or 8 weeks ago who said, you wouldn't be surprised maybe for Fox to make a run on ESPN. And look what just happened in the Big Ten. Fox, NBC, and CBS kind of boxed out ESPN. And as a friend of mine told me last night, who's ever seen that happen? But your daily thoughts, one final pithy thought, whatever is on the mind of the Iron Duke, Franz Beard, we're ready to hear it. Welcome to Sidelines. Hope you're doing well.
Well, I am, and I got to tell you something. ESPN won by losing. Because here's the thing. NBC, let's just say, 7:30, okay? Rutgers, Northwestern. How many people do you think are actually going to watch that ball game? Meanwhile, you have the Disney ABC networks.
Yeah.
There are 12 of them available. Did you know that? Plus you can stream on Hulu and Disney Plus. Okay, they're going to make a run because they bid $380 million to get into this package and were rejected. That $380 million is going to secure what's left of the Pac-12 in a scheduling alliance with the Big 12. So you're going to, and remember this, the Pac-12 for years has played on Friday night and Saturday night. So now ESPN and its networks are going to pick up Friday night football, and late night is going to be owned by ESPN. So ESPN may have lost in that package, but they won. Believe me, when it's all said and done, ESPN just stomped the heck out of Fox, because, as I said, here they are. They're going to be stuck with the Big Ten at noon, and Fox gets its choice of games. CBS will end up with a second choice game. Now, okay, you've got Ohio State playing Michigan. That's one game a year, right?
Yeah.
Okay, you got Ohio State, Penn State. That's 2 games for the year, right?
Yep.
Okay, and you may have, let's see, Michigan State and Michigan. Okay, that's 3 games that are good games.
Yeah. It's
Southern Cal and Ohio State. Maybe Southern Cal ends up being a pretty good ball club, and you just end up with that. Okay, so you may have 4 good games for the whole year in the entire league, and you've just paid what it was, it $850 bazillion to broadcast one league. Meanwhile, here's the other deal: is the Big Ten was paying. CBS was paying the Big Ten something like $15 or $20 million to broadcast Big Ten basketball. Well, that's money that's going to be able to go to ACC basketball or Big 12 basketball. And you got to remember something. Kansas basketball. Think about this for a second. Kansas basketball out on a Tuesday night in the middle of February. They could be playing Western Walla Walla Tech up in Washington near the Canadian border in a game viewed by 17 people in person because nobody could get through the snowpack to get there. That game on television on ESPN will outdraw the Saturday night games. Kansas basketball is an absolute magnet. You know what else is? Kentucky basketball.
Yeah.
You know what else is? North Carolina basketball, not Duke. Yep. Nobody gives a rat's behind about Duke except when Duke plays North Carolina as far as television. Nobody watches. And without Coach K, trust me, nobody is going to watch Duke except the idiots who go to Duke. And I say idiots because they're very smart people, but they're the wokest people in the country. And trust me, there's something about Duke that I just don't like. So anyway, ESPN, trust me, just won. They lost, but they won.
Well, that's an interesting take on it. And what I mean about ESPN is that, if Fox were to get them, I think you just nailed it, though. I don't know what's going to happen. I like to say Apple might start their own college only. And I really started thinking about that during the College World Series and the college baseball and the playoffs and the regionals and the super regionals, how you had to have ESPN streaming 3+ on steroids and look through your neighbor's window and hope they didn't have the blinds pulled down to watch all the games. But that's how it is. But, Jimmy, along the lines of what the Iron Duke Franz Beard has just said, ESPN may have won by losing in that Big Ten deal, and that may be the best thing to happen to the Pac-12 and the Big 12 and them having a scheduling alliance. I like hearing that, man, because I'm telling you, folks, be careful what you wish for about just having – listen, I want my school and my conference to be great, but damn, I want people around the country there to grow the game of football or basketball, baseball. Look what's happening with college baseball. It's booming in popularity. You have 300 something teams, 360 almost, that can go to the NCAA tournament in basketball. Why was there so much excitement when a 15 seed St. Peter's beat Kentucky. I mean, you get it, Jimmy. We need growth of college sports. That's part of American culture. Let's remasculate America. Bring on the alpha male culture. And that's what sports do.
Yeah, but this is a football-driven move.
Oh, I know that.
And I think ESPN is the huge winner here. I mean, the $1.2 billion deal that was announced yesterday involved, okay, Fox gets the exclusive early game, 12 o'clock Eastern time. But they've already been involved with the Big Ten for a number of years, and they, over the length of this contract, I think it's 8 years, will be televising the most games. So they paid $500,000 a year, whereas CBS paid $350 for just the 3:30 Eastern time window game, and then NBC paid $350 for the 7:30 Eastern time primetime game. Now, it's going to be great for those three networks if Notre Dame decided to join the Big Ten. I don't see it, but if that happened, that would be a really good deal for them. But it's rumored, and Franz can tell you this, the current $15 million a year deal NBC has to televise Notre Dame home games is reportedly being up to $75 million a year when the current contract ends. If that is the case, Notre Dame would most likely, that would be enough for them to remain independent, because that's what they cherish the most in football. But if I'm the SEC, ESPN, I'm absolutely elated, because it does free up that money, as Franz was talking about, to not only get involved with the Big 12, which I can very well see them adding Arizona and Arizona State to have the Phoenix market, and then also putting some money into the Pac-12 and also the ACC, because anything is going to increase the amount of money that the ACC teams are getting now. I mean, they might, increase their involvement there. But if I'm ESPN, hey, do I want to show a conference that's won 19 national championships in football since 1970, or a conference that's won 2.5? And one of those, I don't even consider a national championship with that heist they pulled against Miami in the Fiesta Bowl back in 2002. But for me, it's a tremendous deal for ESPN. And again, it gives them, in addition to total control of the current bowl system, but it gives them a footprint into other areas. And as Franz mentioned, giving football fans across the country late night Pac-12 action, which did not exist under the Larry Scott regime.
Yeah, well, the Conference of Champions with Bill Walton, there's nothing better than watching him ramble about everything but the game on TV. And Franz, both of y'all, and I see it too. Look at this case, Big 12, Pac-12 alliance. Look, one door closes, another door opens. You call a guy to sell him some bonds, and he can't take them. And while you're on the phone with that guy, a guy that you had called 2 days earlier calls you back and says he wants the whole issue. That's how it works. And we've got way too many people in the national media, sports media, they just get on TV and they scream and they holler and they get into all their politics. I'm telling you, they're driving people away. People are running from them. Get a hint, people. Sports are a sanctuary from all that crap. You want to be weird and, put a bone in your nose or whatever like that. Go do it on your own time. But don't mess with my college football, my college basketball. Franz Beard, let's head down to the swamp right now. Our man, Coach Billy Napier, he's a planner. I mean, he has that book, that he plans a year He takes account of everything that happens on every day and does a year-over-year comp. The Gators, Anthony Richardson. I was listening to Roman Harper and Alyssa Lang on SEC Now this morning. He said, I know we can run Anthony Richardson. I want to see him beat me with his arm. He says, if I'm a defensive coordinator and I'm playing Anthony Richardson, I try to force him to stay in the pocket. And you got a really good opinion on Anthony Richardson. What about those comments by Roman Harper? Roman knows football. He's smart. We had him on the show last week. Your thoughts?
Well, if somebody wants to force Anthony Richardson to stay in the pocket, they're going to be in serious shape.
Yeah.
Bad serious shape is what I'm talking about. The guy's throwing absolute darts. He used to have this loop in his delivery. The loop is gone. This thing goes straight from the ball goes from here at his chest to his ear, and it is out. There's no loop in the delivery. He used to have this big thing. It was almost like a windup when he threw it. That's why everybody noticed that he threw better on the run, because when he was on the run, he didn't wind up. When he was on the run, he just flicked it like this. Well, they've gotten him mechanically sound now that he uses that flicking motion in the pocket that he used on the run. Now, anybody who wants to see what he can do, you ought to take a look at the throw he made to Jacob Copeland for about a 50-yard touchdown pass against South Florida last year, in which he's running to his left, and he just takes a little bit of a step to get his shoulders square with the line of scrimmage, and then boom, and the ball was there. I mean, it was an absolute laser. He can do that. And that's the big thing that Anthony is going to bring, is that guy that if you get him outside, he can do that. But now that you've got him in the pocket and you've cut down on the motion, okay, a guy who makes that big loop is a guy that when he's in the pocket, he's a statue, and you're going to get to him, because in the pocket, you've got to have the presence to get rid of the ball. That's why Joe Namath was always so good with that boom, that release. The ball seemed to come out of his shoulder like that. We used to laugh at Phillip Rivers' delivery, but by gosh, he didn't get sacked, and the ball got there in a hurry, didn't it?
It did.
And ball just came right out of his shoulder. Well, Anthony, the ball comes out of his ear, and it's like, boom. And it's there. I watched him last Saturday when they were running some drills before the scrimmage, and I thought to myself, "My goodness, we have a new horse of a different breed here." We have gone from a quarter horse to a thoroughbred here. I mean, he can do it.
Well,
but I got to tell you though, one thing though, guys, yeah. Jack Miller, the backup, is having thumb surgery today.
Well, you really need 3 quarterbacks in the SEC, and with Anthony Richardson running the ball a lot, that really is the case at Florida, because let's say he has 10 or 15 runs a game, or when the pocket breaks down, he's going to run. I mean, he's an asset to do that.
Yeah.
But you every time you stick your neck out there, I mean, there's just some assassins out there on defense. They're going to take you out. Nothing dirty. It's just as Ben Troop says, the NFL is a collision league. So is the SEC, and it's the intensity. That's what people need to think about. And I'm with you, Anthony Richardson. I'm not a quarterback coach, but you look at the way he throws the ball. I mean, this is a gifted athlete from Gainesville. Did he go to Buchholz or PK Young?
He went to Eastside.
Okay.
He went to Eastside. Was a tremendous basketball player. I got to tell you what, kid can flat out play some basketball. He's 6'4", can put the ball on the deck and go up, and was a prolific dunker. I'll tell you who else. There were some great battles between Anthony Richardson and Trent Whittemore in high school. Trent Whittemore, people don't realize, averaged 23 points a game for his high school career. Trent Whittemore's mother was a 3-time All-American setter for the Florida volleyball team. So he comes from a very, very athletic gene pool. None of his genes got drowned in the pool, guys. I got to tell you.
That may be one of the best comebacks ever about the gene pool. None of his genes got drowned. But look, we've run out of time. I don't know. This is a faster show than normal. God almighty. Franz, let's do this again next week. You just opened up a lot of people's eyes to Anthony Richardson because we don't know. Again, we saw him play some last year. Then he was injured. But I just think Florida, you just go back and you think from 89 to 09, that 20-year period, the Gators were the winningest team in America in college football. 7 or 8 SEC titles, 3 national championships. The Gators, again, the bonfire effect, all it takes is blow on those coals, put a little kindling and some toilet paper on that fire the next morning. And
Toomer's Corner.
Yeah, that's right. But anyway, been a great show. Follow Franz Beard, GatorbaitMedia.com, and on the Buddy Martin Show Monday through Thursday nights on Facebook at 9 p.m. Eastern. Jimmy, great show. All of our guests, this has been fantastic. Hey, go out and help people with the expectation of getting nothing in return. Let people know they matter. We most often see the face of Christ in the least among us. Folks, we live in the greatest country in the world. Act like it. Don't buy into the narrative. Don't let other people write your story. We'll see you tomorrow. Have a great day, everybody.